Welcome to the Corner Kick Show. I'm your host, Nick Prokop. With me is my good friend and soccer savant, Tyler Whitesides. How you doing today, Tyler?
I'm doing well, Nick. It's good to be back on the show.
Definitely. No Joey today. He is sick, so we wish him well and quick, speedy recovery, and hopefully he'll be back on with us on Tuesday's show. But Tyler, how can people find you out in the Twitterverse?
Same place as always, at Protect Your Net.
And for me is at Buckeye Nick 7. For those that don't know, we are part of the Tangent Bound Network. The tangentboundnetwork.com is where you can find all the different shows, anything from comic books to movies to music to sports. It'll be a little bit better organized soon once we get some changes going on so that you'll be able to find us quicker. But otherwise, you can find our show. If you're listening, you probably already have iTunes or Stitcher or on the website cornerkick.tangentboundnetwork.com. All right, now let's kind of get right into it. It seems like every day there's more unraveling and peeling of the onion that is FIFA. And Tyler, two things that came out this week that are interesting after our last conversation about the resignation of Sepp Blatter is Jack Warner is very adamant about him having checks and certain things along those lines where he has a paper trail, essentially, that can go all the way back to Sepp Blatter. What are some of your thoughts on these supposed allegations?
Well, I love that. If he does, in fact, come out with this supposed avalanche, then I'll be really excited.
Yeah, and one thing about that, it's interesting that he called it an avalanche. So has he been just keeping stuff around that implicates him and other people forever? If that's the case, I kind of hope he waives his extradition and comes over and gets this ball rolling. Mm-hmm. I know he probably won't because he doesn't understand or anything what he probably has, or he just doesn't care. But at the same time, I feel like if they give him some sort of sweetheart deal to come on over, the FBI will be like, hey, thanks for coming over. We're going to give you a slap on the wrist if you give us Sepp Blatter.
It wouldn't surprise me if he had saved up a bunch of about Sepp and everything else implicated.
And not only running CONCACAF for basically 30 years, not even that, well, actually 22. But not even that. It's one of those things. He's been a higher-ranking FIFA official for a long time too, so he knows him and Sepp are boys. So it's one of those things. He's got to have something going on or some sort of stockpile of paperwork. But that wasn't the only nugget that came out. As I said, we just keep peeling away, and we find out from people from the Irish FA that FIFA paid $5 million, what was originally considered a loan,
$5
million euros, to the Irish FA to not make any legal action or go investigate the Thierry Henry handball, which was obvious to the world, and appeal to FIFA instead of appealing or trying to overturn and somehow get a continuation or a game or some sort of rematch or something to get into the World Cup. They just took the $5 million and ran. Well, the reason why I use quote loan is apparently there was some talk that if they made this past year's World Cup, that they would have had to pay that back to FIFA, which on top of that, it's just an egregious thing anyways, is like you should know. I mean, everyone watched that. I know people that don't even know soccer know that shouldn't have happened. Yeah. So for me, it's just that hush money situation's horrible. And I get that the Irish FA in the past probably was keeping their mouth shut so that they could kind of get help in the future. But at the same time, these are things that should have been brought to light a long time ago. Agreed. What are your thoughts on the Irish FA?
Yeah, to be honest with you, I think it's a disgrace. It's one of the nastiest things you could see in soccer, football, whatever you want to call it. To me, it just sullies the game, and it sullies the integrity of the game. And when you have somebody who values money more so than, and not somebody, a football association
Mm-hmm.
They value money more so than the integrity of the game. Then where are we? What is it worth? I mean, that's pathetic to me.
Exactly. And Joey's not with us today, but I know he had this conversation with me earlier, and he brought up that if this is happening in this type of situation, maybe there are some conspiracy of situations where matches have been fixed by FIFA. He pointed out that in 2002, South Korea had some intriguing referee calls and beat both Italy and Spain, who subsequently turned around and won the next two World Cups.
Mm-hmm.
That's a little too deep of a conspiracy. But at the same time, it does bring a valid point that if FIFA is this corrupt to basically say, we know that there's a handball in this game and that France shouldn't have won, but we're going to sweep it under the rug. What other things have they been sweeping under the rug, really?
Yeah, I mean, that's fixing. That's essentially match fixing.
Yeah,
exactly. You're going back and making it so that they can appeal, but that doesn't even make sense. Like, aren't they the group that would appeal?
Yeah.
I mean, so they'd appeal to FIFA. So wouldn't FIFA? They just didn't want the controversy, I'm guessing, even though there already was some. Like you said, people who don't even know about anything about soccer know about that specific game. It's ridiculous.
I agree. And staying in Europe, we have this Saturday, besides the beginning of the Women's World Cup, we also have the beginning, the finale of the Champions League in UEFA. Juventus from Serie A and La Liga side Barcelona. I am curious what you think on this one. I'm very adamant that it's going to be Barcelona all the way, but interesting note that Chiellini has been dropped due to an injury and will not be available for Juve. I think that's going to hurt, but at the same time, they have some center back depth there. Besides Bonucci, they do have Angelo Ogbonna and some others. But it's one of those things that I feel like we're making it too much of a foregone conclusion that Barcelona is just going to go in there and just rail over Juve.
Yeah.
What type of Juve team do you think is showing up?
I mean, this is the same Juve team that just knocked out Real Madrid in a 2-leg set. I mean, this isn't the pushover team. I mean, although they do have a marginal budget comparatively, it's still a team that can play well, can dominate, and the defense, even without Chiellini, you're right, they do have some depth, but even without Chiellini, that's a very world-class defense. And I think to not give them credit for at least a chance, if only a puncher's chance, would be pathetic, and it kind of cheapens them. I think the team is way too good offensively and in the midfield to completely discount them, let alone defensively. But obviously the Chiellini calf injury is not so good. But I think they'll be all right.
Yeah, I think they'll be all right. I think what will be an X factor for Juve is if they're able to flood the midfield in the center with Marchisio, Pirlo, Pogba, Vidal, whoever's playing. If they can control that center of the field, I think that will help and basically stymie the attack of that front three of Neymar, Suarez, and Messi. They'll have to stop and then come back a little bit instead of just waiting for the Iniesta pass to freeze them open up top, because they'll have so many guys in the midfield. They'll have to come back a little bit. That's I think the big key for Juve to have a chance to win. Barca is just Barca, and I think they're going to be really good, and they're going to just attack.
Yeah.
I am going to say 3-2 Barca in the end, but I think it might come after extra time, like extra time. Like we'll get in like the 120th minute or something like that.
Yeah.
Just because I think it's going to be a very strong defensive affair. I think Juve will put out a good defense. I could be completely wrong, but we're speculating, and that's my thought here.
No, it's fine. I think that very well could be the result, but I still think that Barcelona's going to win. Don't get me wrong. I just think that it's going to be a much closer game than some might think. And who knows? I mean, Juve could very well pull this out. It would be crazy, but they do have talent. They have a ton of talent. I mean, it's Champions League final. They wouldn't have gotten there without the ability to do so. So I would say probably 2-1. I don't know that it's going to go into extra time, but I think if it does, I don't know. I think Barcelona still has the edge. Just anytime you have Messi on a pitch, man,
he is just magical. I don't know if you had a chance to see his goal against Bilbao, but I have no words. I was impressed. There was nothing more you could say about it than fantastic, because he just flew through the defense. Words are hard, Tyler. Words are hard. And then just slipped it right into the goal, which was fantastic. I couldn't believe it. But I feel like it's going to be 3-2. Messi's probably going to score a brace. Maybe Neymar or Suarez getting one of the other ones. I feel like Tevez will probably get a goal in there too somewhere, just because it'll be one of those situations where they all kind of step up for the big game. I hope it's close. I don't want to see a blowout. I don't want to see another FA Cup in the sense that it's 4-0 at the end, and we're all sitting here going, "Well, that's the end of it." Because if you think about it, now we won't have any major competitions in Europe for a couple months, so this is it. So.
Yeah, that sucks. I mean, like I said, this game, I like the prospect of it though, because it could be a really close game with Juve winning as the underdog, but it could also be a blowout. So we don't really know. I mean, it's all speculation anyway and conjecture. But Barca is one of those teams that is just so good right now, and they are working with the efficiency of a finely tuned machine. So. I don't know. I don't see them losing.
One final fact to throw out there about Barca: if they do win, this will be a feat that Luis Enrique has matched Pep Guardiola in the first year of their managerial stint with Barca, in the sense that the first year as manager they had both won the treble by winning La Liga, Copa del Rey, and Champions League. So if he's able to beat Juve, that'll be a nice little jewel in his crown as Barca manager, and be in the same breath as Pep is fantastic.
Mm-hmm. To be honest, I want Juve to win. Let's be real. I mean, it's not just because they're the underdog. I think it's just that I want people to recognize that Italy or Italian soccer or calcio it's not pathetic.
Yeah, calcio's not pathetic at all. But see, the problem I'm having is the Napoli fan in me is saying go Barca.
Right, of course, and that's the hard part.
It's difficult.
Like, I'm a Napoli fan, obviously, but I just started being a Napoli fan and not entrenched in the system yet. But so for me, I think we have to factor in the fact that Serie A had the most goals scored of any major competition this season.
Yep.
Any major competition. Obviously, Bundesliga had less games, so they are like 800 goals or something. But Serie A had over 1,000 goals this year. And people still think that the league sucks.
I'm laughing because of the messages I just got received from our sickly co-host. He's listening into our live connection, and he says, "Oh my God, Tyler, you want Juve to win? God damn you, dude! What the f?
I don't want them to win as Juve. I want them to win for Italian soccer. It's not but I also don't want Barca to win. I don't know that I want Juve or Barca, but I have to choose, and therefore I would rather go with a team that doesn't have every talented player on the planet, which both do, it seems.
Yeah, well, I mean, Juve, if you go talent by talent, it's probably lesser. I mean, you have guys like Paul Pogba, who are considered the better, the best, one of the young bright stars in his position. When it comes down to it, Barca's the necessary evil, in my opinion. Yeah. That's the way I put it. It's the necessary evil. They're both evil answers, but they're the necessary evil.
I'm just trying to change the way that people look at Italian soccer.
Yeah, I understand that. I understand that.
It was awesome. Yeah. From what little I was able to watch, even though I did watch a lot of Napoli games and actually a lot of Serie A matches in general. But for me, it was great, because I got to see a lot of dynamic matches that you don't normally get in EPL. It's usually the grind out kind of bull crap that everybody's used to. But Instead, it was a lot of free flowing, awesome soccer, tactical, and I like tactical soccer. So
I agree. That is a good point. I got Calcio. Serie A is a very very technical game. Um, the biggest issue in Serie A has been money. A lot of the major teams have fallen by the wayside just because of the fact that they don't have a lot of money coming in. So
yeah, and I don't want Juve to have more money. That sucks. But I also want Juve to do really well against Barca, but still lose. So maybe, just maybe, people will be like, all right. Also, maybe City A isn't so shitty.
Before we move on, final note from our cohort.
Cohort. Sure.
Juve made it to the final. That's good. They can lose now. they've proven that for Serie A at least.
Yeah, they can.
Italy can run over Europa next season and keep jacking up the coefficient.
Well, they probably will. They probably will end up.
Oh yeah, exactly. They had 2 of the last 4 this year in Napoli and Fiorentina. So as long as I keep getting more teams deeper in the tournaments, we're fine. But yeah, I feel like once Milan and Inter are able to be at the top again, then we'll have a stronger Serie A. But to kind of end the Serie A debate and get back on track here, U.S. men's national team will be playing in Europe this weekend also. They have tomorrow a friendly with the Netherlands and in Germany next week. Interesting squad that it was called up for the USA. And a lot of people have some questions because this is obviously some warm-ups for next month's Gold Cup we'll talk about when that comes. But I know you said you didn't really look at the roster, but I'll read it off really quick.
I went through it, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Cool. I went through it just in case.
I figured Brad Guzan's probably going to be the goalkeeper just because he's the number 1 now as Tim Howard's been deposed. Right. I'd like to see some of these defenders. I'm curious about the Brad Evans call-up, where he's going to play if he does play, just because I don't think he's that very good at center back, honestly. I want to see Timmy Chandler finally step up and be the Timmy Chandler I see in Bundesliga, because I see a completely different Chandler when I watch any kind of Frankfurt matches. So maybe he can finally get it together with the U.S. men's national team.
Mm-hmm.
John Brooks looks like he'll be like the key guy in the center. He's probably going to start both games, in my opinion. I'd like to see Ventura Alvarado start one of them because he seems like a bright young spot.
Mm-hmm. I agree. I would like to see those two together. And you know what? As good as Brad Evans has been, I may actually want to see him in for a short spell.
Yeah, and Joey just mentioned Brad Evans a right back, and that's true because he had played in actually the formation I think they might go to is a 4-2-3-1. Seems like that's a better formation when they play these tougher European sides. I could see Brad Evans going to right back in the 4-2-3-1 because that's when we were qualifying for this last World Cup. He played there more often than not. I definitely want to see Beckerman to see if he can be good enough to be around for the Gold Cup team next month, if he still has a little in him. I'm curious about Miguel Ibarra if he can be on this level and play with these bigger teams. Fabian Johnson looks obviously fantastic. I'm wondering though, because he's listed as midfielder.
Mm-hmm.
I'm wondering if maybe because the left back situation is bleak and it only looks like Brek Shea, I wonder if he might start a match at left back, honestly. And personally, I feel like he should be a fullback anyways, because people always like to talk about his play in the matches leading up to the World Cup, like when he almost scored a goal against Germany. But when he did actually score a goal, he was playing right back against Turkey, and he played right back fairly well through the actual World Cup itself. So I'm kind of wondering if he'll go back to fullback. And up top, the man of the hour, I feel like needs to be Aaron Johansson. He needs to. I feel like this needs to be his summer to break out with the national team and show who he is, basically. Because we always talk about the Dutch league and how a striker can go there and score a lot, but at the same time, I feel like he's a confident kid. He looks fairly good, even though, like as I said, he's playing in the Dutch league. I feel like that he can actually be a nice spark plug and play well off of a Josie Altidore or play well off of a Clint Dempsey, depending on who's getting the call up next month. But what are some of the thoughts on the players that they've called up?
Well, I think the forwards are a little. I'd like to see Juan Agudelo, obviously. Aaron Johansson, even though he's playing in Eredivisie, he's actually doing some really spectacular goals. I mean,
goals.
It's crazy. He's scoring good quality goals, not just in abundance.
Yeah.
So it's nice, but I'm still taken aback by the fact that Bobby Wood keeps getting time.
Yeah, that one's awkward.
He's dog shit, and
not good.
But I guess that's one of those ones where it's like, oh, he plays in 1860 Munich, so he must be good. It's like, I don't know. I mean, obviously, I'm assuming that Jurgen knows more about the German teams than we do, but still, it's wow.
Well, if that's the case, well, honestly, I feel like that spot whenever this guy gets healthy, but if Terrence Boyd ever gets fully healthy again, I think that's the spot that Wood keeps getting called up in.
Yeah.
I would love to see Terrence Boyd again, just because I feel like he's one of those perfect target strikers when we need to switch to a one striker up top or something like that for the hold up play. That's actually one thing when you're bringing up the strikers here and looking at Agudelo, looking at Wood, looking at Zardes, they're not really physical guys, really, if you think about these guys. Wood reminds me of a little bit like a Brian Ching. Being Hawaiian, obviously he gets a lot of comparisons to Brian Ching, but at the same time, he's not anywhere near as potent as Brian Ching was when he was in his prime. You're right, though. I feel like he's only getting called up because he's playing for Munich, and Klinsmann kind of has his boys. Because right now, if you're looking at midfield, of all the MLS players right now, the probably most informed American is Benny Feilhaber. But Klinsmann hasn't called him up in forever.
Yeah, but he's also getting up there in age. He's probably wanting to test out the younger guys. But that's why the Bradley and Beckerman call-ups are a little weird to me.
Yeah.
I get Descartes, I get Ibarra, I get Fabian Johnson, although he's a little on the older side. I don't understand Jermaine Jones. I obviously don't get Bradley.
Well, Jones is injured. He's out. Jordan Morris is actually in his
spot. That's right. Jordan Morris. But isn't Jordan Morris a forward anyway?
Yeah, he's the 20-year-old forward that scored against Mexico. And actually, we're going to talk size. He's the only one that really has any kind of size amongst the group. So
he's
not tall though, but he's
just all about speed.
Wide.
I mean, he seems to be a quality player, but he's just heavily reliant on the speed, which is fine.
He makes good diagonal runs at least when it comes to getting into the box.
Yeah.
And staying on side.
But that's what I think about these friendlies. They should be about testing out the young guys, seeing how they can take on, elite teams or elite countries, not to say that we're playing elite.
And by all means, because of the fact that we did bring in some guys that aren't maybe great, don't have a lot of experience on the U.S. side, I would love to see Danny Williams and Alfredo Morales paired up in the midfield. Just because they need time. They need more time out there. They need to grow as players, and that's the best thing to do is, hey, we have these matchups against major teams. Yeah, Germany's not calling in all their top players, but they do have – Germany B squads are basically a quality World Cup team.
Absolutely.
So if we're going to play like a half A, half B squad, it's still going to be perfectly fine. And that's where I'm looking at. It's like Alfredo Morales gets a lot of pub by Klinsmann, and his team just got promoted to the Bundesliga. So it'll be interesting if he does start. I was just kind of looking around at the lineups earlier, and actually, like I mentioned earlier in the show, 4-2-3-1 was kind of what I was thinking when I looked at this. And when I kind of was just looking at the players, this is the lineup I came up with. Brad Guzan at goalkeeper, Chandler, Orozco, Brooks, and Shea in the back line. And this is only maybe for one of the matches. If this lineup starts tomorrow, Tuesday, I want to see like a completely different lineup. Then I was thinking Beckerman and Morales as the two holders. And then I thought if I'm going to have Shea at left back, Yedlin and Johnson on the wings. Because Yedlin, even though he technically is a right back, he hasn't played that on the USMNT. So I really feel like maybe giving him a shot up on that right wing, since we don't have a Green and we don't have Joe Zhao or Josh Gatt or any of the other young wingers. And then probably just Fabian Johnson on the left. Like I said earlier, I want to see Fabian Johnson at fullback, but just thinking like I'm just trying to think like Klinsmann and not think like me for a second. And that's also why I put Bradley in the 10 spot for the 4-2-3-1, based on the fact that Klinsmann still thinks that Bradley is a 10, even though he's an 8, and he always has been an 8. But he seems to always think that Bradley's 8 can turn into a 10 for some reason. And then I have Aaron Johansson up top, as even though he's not an imposing striker, I think that he can do the hold-up play just fine if he has the ball at his feet, and then spring the speedy guys on the outside. But that's just my kind of spitballing when looking at the roster. I feel like Orozco's getting up there in age and kind of at the ends of his call-ups, honestly, so I'm not exactly sure why he gets called up, but like I just said, Klinsmann has his boys. I think it also might be a chance to say, hey, Orozco, you're on the fringes for the Gold Cup. I might be bringing in Gonzalez, Beasler, or Cameron in this spot, so
show me something.
Yeah, show me something. That's kind of what I'm thinking with some of these guys. And that's probably even Brad Evans bringing him back in, because even though he hasn't really played on defense since like way back when, before the World Cup, at least maybe he'll have a chance to kind of show himself, since he's doing it with the Seattle Sounders now.
Yeah, he's doing it center back, which I think is great.
Yeah.
He's playing really well at center back for them, not just, he's a fill-in guy. At first he was a little shaky, and he had a few moments there, but especially in San Jose.
If you look at the last 3 or 4 matches, he has been perfectly fine. So, any other last thoughts on the U.S. men's national team going into these friendlies?
No, they're friendlies. I honestly couldn't give a shit less about the games, other than seeing how the players actually play individually. It's not even about how they play together, because they're never going to play together.
Yeah, exactly. The 2 guys I kind of want to see, especially in a Europe situation, since they play in hostile scenarios in Mexico, is Ventura Alvarado and William Yarbrough. I feel like Yarbrough will be like a second half sub or something. Like I think Guzan might start both games but not get 90. I feel like in the first match it might be like Guzan goes 45 and then Raimondo does the rest of the match, and then like for the second match Guzan goes 45 and then Yarbrough gets the rest. I really hope William Yarbrough and Alvarado get called up to the Gold Cup, mainly because the U.S. fan in me wants him to at least play one, basically cap tie him in the Gold Cup, because that, if we can't cap tie him in qualifying or the World Cup, we have the Gold Cup to do it. So I feel like you're going to see in this coming Gold Cup guys like Gideon Zelalem, even though he did his one-time switch already. I feel like you'll see him just to secure the cap, and then guys like Alvarado and Yarbrough, because they'll probably play in a match against, like, say, Belize or someone like that, just to get it done, and so that they can actually, I don't even think Belize is in this one, but that's kind of my point, is there'll be like a Cuba or Guatemala that they play against, that they'll be like, here, get your cap tie against this team.
Right, exactly.
But that's about it for now. Like I said, both matches should be played before our next show, so we'll be able to just review it all. But getting to the big meat and potatoes of today's talk, this Saturday, Canada versus China starts off the Women's World Cup.
Oh, God, I'm so excited.
I'm excited. And one of the big things I'm actually excited about, besides seeing our USA women going at it again and just playing fantastic soccer, I love that they expanded the tournament this time around. It's up to 24 now. So there'll be more teams going through in the rounds of 16. So even if they finish third in their group, USA could still go through. Kind of like how it was before the expansion to 32 for the men. But we'll go through and groups. We'll just go through and break down all the groups for you. I'll start off with Group A and rattle off the teams and give you some of my thoughts, and then we'll just kind of go like that, where then you'll give your thoughts on Group A, then I'll have you write off Group B and all that good stuff. So Group A, we have Canada the host, China their first opponent, the Netherlands and New Zealand. Interesting group there for Canada. I feel like it's actually going to be a fairly easier group for them. I think Canada will come through on top. Interesting with China, the Netherlands, and New Zealand, I feel like all 3 of those teams are very similar in strength. all three could easily be second or third. I like Canada, obviously, because of being the home team, and then Christine Sinclair, their strong striker up front. But yeah, I think it's going to go Canada first because of the whole home team aspect, and they have a pretty good draw. I think China is actually going to come in second. They're for a women's team. They've always been fairly strong. Most people remember them anyways from 1999 and in that final against the Americans. But I think this year's team is actually fairly strong. I think the Dutch come in third, and probably one of those third-place teams going through. I can't remember the one lady's name. Manus, I believe, was her first name, but very strong, tall striker. Kind of like a female version of Petter Crouch is the best way I could describe this girl. So it'll be one of those situations that she'll probably get a lot of service up front. And they're all these girls are fast on almost all these teams. New Zealand has a lot of different good players too. I think they're going to come in last though, just because, like I said, China, Netherlands, and New Zealand are all very even. So 2 through 4 could bounce around easily. I just feel like China will come through and have a fast team, and same with the Netherlands. What are some of your thoughts on this?
Well, I do think I think that Netherlands will squeak in second spot. And I say that because I know that even if China loses, they'll still be reported as winning the World Cup. So, in China, of course. So that's cool. That was a failed joke. All right. No, it was.
It's okay, Doug.
Honestly, I think you're right. Canada wins the group. The home team. I think they have a better team anyway. And not knowing much about New Zealand's team, I think that is probably for a reason.
Yeah, they have a couple good players, but the bad thing for them is they're not a strong team. It's only once you get through a few players, and you're pretty much just flying through them. That's why I think they're last.
Yeah. Yeah, and like I said, either Netherlands or China. I'm not sure which one's going to pull through, but
yeah,
for some reason, I think the Netherlands will. I don't know. I get this inclination, even if it's based on absolutely nothing.
And I think Joey says you're funny, and he totally agrees with me on Group A. So I will let you go ahead and start with Group B because I have nothing else to say about Group A except for Canada and Christine Sinclair.
And okay, so Group B is Germany, Cote d'Ivoire, Norway, and Thailand. Obviously, Germany is the favorite. I think that most people would agree with that in the group.
Easily. I mean, Joey just sent a text saying Germany.
Yeah.
This group is honestly the easiest group out of, I think, all of them. Norway's a strong team usually. They always give fits to the USA when they play each other. I feel like this is going to be one of those groups that only takes 2 teams. But
no, absolutely.
Cote d'Ivoire could maybe push through. Thailand's not really that great, honestly. They barely made it into this tournament, and on top of that, they only have one really, really good player. She's a fairly good midfielder, but she's not going to carry the team on her back. So it's pretty much Germany, Norway.
Yeah, and then possibly Cote d'Ivoire.
Yeah, then possibly, and that's what's intriguing is these third place teams all have a chance. It all depends on the points and how it lays out. But I'm gonna go ahead.
But yeah, I mean, I like that they're doing that.
Yeah, I like that in the setting since it's not a 32 team tournament, so you need to have some sort of third place team slide through.
Yeah, I'd be lying if I said I scouted Thailand though.
I obviously didn't go too in depth, but what I did was I looked into the top 100 women in soccer, and when I got to the top 50, there was like one name for Thailand, one name for Cote d'Ivoire. So I pretty much put it as how many players do you have in the top 100, and that's kind of how I ranked them.
Well, yeah, I feel like that's great. I feel like I'm doing the groups a disservice because this is the World Cup, man. Yeah. I'm really, really excited to watch the games. Don't get me wrong. I am. For the pure fact that I know that the soccer is going to be awesome. And a lot of people don't like the women's game, and I get that. But for me, I'm excited to watch the games, even though it's kind of like going to see a band that you've never really listened to, but your friend is in love with.
That's
they take you to go see a band. You're like, I like music. I love venues. I really want to go watch this. That's kind of how I look at this. It's like, I'm really excited to see the USA women, obviously.
Yeah, obviously.
But for me, I also don't know anything really about a lot of these teams. So I'm going to be watching virtually every game with excitement, not knowing, not having those biases in place that I'm like, well, this team sucks. I'm not even going to bother watching it. It's not like watching EPL and seeing, Burnley against United and going, well, this is stupid. You know what I mean? Like, it's not that. I don't have it.
Oh, yeah, I understand.
I know that Thailand's not good, but that's just based on my...
And that's the thing that's great about this World Cup is instead of having the broadcasting only doing like USA and like major teams, every single match will be televised. So
right, exactly.
Even if it's Thailand and Cote d'Ivoire, I might actually watch it just to see what happens. But moving on to Group C, we have the defending World Cup champion Japan.
Yes.
I have them winning this, even though I feel like they're gonna lean on Sawa, their 36-year-old captain that was key to beating USA in the last World Cup. I think that'll help them get through this group because the group is somewhat easy, but I don't think that it's not as easy as the last group, but it's going to be one of those situations that they're going to fly through the group stage and win this group easily. The rest of their group is Switzerland, Ecuador, and Cameroon. And actually, that's the order I have them in right now is Japan, Switzerland, Ecuador, and Cameroon. And I think this is going to be yet another group where it's only 2 teams coming from it.
This is a race for second, I think, in that group.
And that's the thing, Ecuador and Cameroon. Like I said, I did the research on the top 100 females in soccer, and they only had about 1 or 2 each. And the teams there's a trend here in the sense that all the teams that only had maybe 1 or 2 are at the bottom of each group.
Right, and there's probably a reason for that.
Yeah, exactly. Some of your thoughts on maybe Japan and Swiss and all that?
Yeah, I do think obviously Japan's going to win the group.
Yeah.
I don't know. Again, I haven't really seen much of Cameroon or Ecuador, so I can't really speak to that. But I do think Switzerland and Japan will go through. But I think it'll be closer for second than even I think. But even I would have thought, I guess. But yeah, I think Japan's going to take it pretty easily, and then Switzerland's going to second.
And Joey's thoughts are Japan, Switzerland, and then who gives a shit because third place isn't making it to the knockout round anyways. Okay, so yeah, that's about it with Group C. And what do we have for Group E? Because we'll come back to Group D because that's important.
That's understandable. Group E is Brazil, Korea Republic, Spain, and Costa Rica, which obviously Brazil's probably the favorite. With Marta in there, but I don't know. That looks like a pretty good group.
It's a difficult group. It's honestly a difficult group. I look at this group and my thoughts is obviously Marta, Christian, and all those other very fast females. I feel like they're going to be at the top for Brazil, and Brazil's going to win this group. But that fight for second and third is going to be absolutely fantastic because Costa Rica has been giving USA and some other countries fits lately. Korea just had that 0-0 draw by staying compact against USA. So if they're able to keep compact against Brazil and not get them on the wings, that could help. Spain, Spain on the women's game is not as nearly as good as the men are.
Yeah, they're not. No.
But they still have some talent. So I look at this group, and this is my ordering of it. I think it's going to be Brazil, Korea, Costa Rica, Spain, with obviously Costa Rica getting the third spot and sliding in. That's a toss-up, though. And honestly, the main reason why I picked Costa Rica is I feel like with the turf, you're going to have defensive teams that are able to stay compact in the midfield and teams that are very good at passing and finesse kind of slide through on the outside and have that speed on the outside, mainly because I don't think Spain is going to have the speed on the outside as much as Costa Rica. Basically think that I feel like that Spain is going to be like the big team that gets knocked out early in this World Cup. What are your thoughts on the rest of this group?
Well, I would love to see Spain get dominated. I think a lot of people would join me in saying that, although maybe they need to make up for their World Cup showing. I don't know. But the men's World Cup. But I don't know. again, I don't know much about those other teams. So for me, I'm excited. This is a palate of deliciousness for me.
This group is going to be fun to watch, honestly. There's 4 really, really good teams. Joey actually thinks Spain's going to get the second spot.
That'd be cool.
And he could be right. I think the turf is going to be the biggest key for these teams because you have a good mix of defensive and finesse teams. So his actual grouping is Brazil, Spain, Korea, Costa Rica out. But yeah, this group is definitely going to have a third place team sliding through just because there's too many good teams in this group. But yeah, Marta's going to shine, and she's rated as probably the best player in the World Cup this year, and I'm not shocked by that. She is fantastic, and I could not believe she's only 29.
I was
shocked. I was shocked. You can't say you want to see Spanish women get dominated, Tyler. That sounds horrible.
Come on, that's not what I meant. I meant on the pitch.
I know. Sorry, that was Joey.
No, that's fine. Because I don't think of it that way.
I know. I'm not thinking about it that way either. But that was a good catch by him. He would have probably got you on the show too if he was here with us. But yeah, I think that's about it with that group. I think Marta's going to dominate a lot. So we'll see what actually happens. But moving on to Group F. And this one's another one that's somewhat intriguing. You have France, England, Mexico, and Colombia, and that's actually the order I have it in, mainly because I feel like Colombia is not as strong as their men counterpart either. They only have, like I said, a couple of players in that top 100 I looked at. Mexico has about 3 or 4, so maybe they'll slide through and get that third spot. It's really going to be between them for the third spot. I think it's easily going to go France, England, 1-2. France is one of my top 4 or 5 teams in this tournament. I really like Louisa Nassib. She is just a fantastic player and going to control. And Joy says, I think of it that way with Spanish. But I think the French are going to just dominate this group. It's interesting with each group is I feel like there's besides the last group that we'll talk about, each group has one team that will just dominate the rest of the group, and I feel like France is going to be the one that's in this group just beating up on everybody else, and I feel like Louisa Nassib is going to be an all-star for them in this case and lead them either to the final or the semifinals. A lot of people have been picking USA versus France to be the final. I wouldn't maybe go that far. I think they'll at least be a semifinal team, though. England, they're strong, but they're not deep. And on top of that, I feel like they'll be like any other English team and make it to the quarterfinal, then bow out.
I'm so excited that they're playing. Oh, we invented the game.
Yeah, exactly. Mexico, like I said, will probably slide in through before Colombia and get that third spot into the next round. But Mexico, even though they made strides, you can just look at their match against the USA last time they played each other and just thoroughly played off the field.
It
was horrible for them. So, what are your thoughts on Group F?
Well, France takes it, obviously.
Yeah, easily.
The second and third spot, I think. Oh God, I think you're right on England, but I do still think that they'll take second because France will just roll over everybody.
Oh, easily.
And then Mexico.
It's like the race for 4 points is the way I see it.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So I think France dominates.
Mm-hmm.
England slips into the second spot, and then Mexico takes the third spot.
Yeah, and it looks like we're all in agreement. Joey has the same list: France, England, Mexico, Colombia. But let's get to the coup de grace, the biggest group ever, the best group in this whole tournament. It's not just because USA's in there, but if you look at this group,
Nigeria.
Oh my, even Nigeria, yeah. But we have in Group D, USA, Sweden, Australia, and Nigeria. I feel bad for Nigeria in a way because even though they're a fairly solid female squad, they have 3 of the biggest bullies in the world that they have to play, and that's oh man. Let's take it team by team real quick here. Nigeria, like I said, I think they're going to be a punching bag. What do you think there, Tyler?
Yeah, I don't think they're going to last very long.
No, I don't think so at all. Australia.
Whew, that's tough. I think that I don't know. Was Sweden? Oh, jeez. I think Sweden's the better team, but I think Australia takes second in that group.
Really?
Yeah, I think they slip in.
I personally have Australia at third right now.
Mm-hmm. Well,
honestly,
you know more about them than I do. And
like I said, in that top 100 list, they had a lot in there, but it wasn't like with USA and Sweden. That honestly, the teams that had the most were USA, Sweden, France, Canada, Germany, Japan. I think those were like the 4 or 5 countries that had the most. That's why I have them at the top of almost every single group, is they have like half their team on that list. But I think it's going to be a fight for who's first, because Sweden's very strong, and Pia Sundhage is their manager, obviously the former USA manager, and she knows her team back in front, and she knows our team back in front. So I really have a feeling Sweden's winning this group.
Really?
I at first had USA winning the group. And mind you, even if USA slid and went all the way to third, they're getting through. There's no way they're not getting through. But I feel like they're going to take care of Nigeria easily. I feel like it'll be a fun battle against Australia, but I think that Sweden matchup is going to be the interesting one, just because they're 2 of the top 5 teams in this tournament. And I just feel like Pia will have their number the first time around. If they happen to play each other again later on, say in a final or something, then maybe USA would win it. But I also, in a strange way, I feel like I want USA to come second. The main reason why I say that is because if all the cards fall like they would, you would see them playing Japan and Brazil in the round of 16 in the quarterfinals. So you're going to play 2 strong teams right off the bat, and right off the rip play. Besides playing strong teams, you're also getting battle tested right away. So when it does come to that final that's eluded them since 1999.
See, and I like your point.
I feel like that would help them in that final, whoever they play.
See, that's my thing is I like your point, but I don't like the reasons. I think if they do take second, right? I think it puts the chip on their shoulder where all of a sudden they're not going we're dominant, we're going to beat everybody up, you know. So let's say they take a bad beat but then come back. I think that would be or bear much better fruit later on in the tournament. But I think you're right. I don't see any way that we don't get through. But I do think we win the group. I think it's going to come down to the last game, but I think we win the group.
Hey, and that's the thing. It's going to come down to that, and I think it's a possibility that we don't. I'm just saying I want them to win the group. I want them to win it. Obviously, I want them to go through and win every single match they play. I'm just pointing out that Sweden is probably the 3rd best team out on this whole tournament behind, I would say USA is the best. I would say Germany's 2nd, and I would say Sweden's 3rd.
And Sweden playing Nigeria first helps them get confidence right off the bat too. So I can see it going that way. I just gut instinct. I'm going to go with USA winning the group, Australia taking 2nd, and Sweden 3rd, getting in on the 3rd spot. But then Sweden goes farther than Australia in the tournament.
Okay.
I think you're putting too much emphasis on our former manager.
Pia. Well, and just kind of get a little in depth on our current team. Some X factors and things I was thinking about is these forwards, especially Abby Wambach and Sydney Leroux, they like to be very physical up front against some of these female defenders. And this turf, I think, is not going to help them. I don't know if you saw the picture that Sydney posted not long ago of her knees and her legs all torn up from training.
Oh, I get it all the time. Trust me. I know exactly what she goes through there. I hate turf, man.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Yeah, well, I understand. I understand. And I'm just pissed about that. They shouldn't be playing on turf at all. The females should be playing on grass. And I feel like they will, I think they'll adjust fine, honestly. And one thing I feel like whenever someone says it'll be a detriment to the USA, I always say, well, the other teams have to play on it too. Yeah. So it's detriment to everybody. Joey's on board with you in this in the USA, Sweden, Australia. Oh, no, actually, you said Australia 2nd. So really, if he goes with what I want to happen, USA, Sweden, Australia, and then Nigeria last.
Like I said, I may come off like a naive person here, but That's true. I am naive in this.
Australia is a strong team. Australia is a strong team, and that's one of the reasons why this is the group of death. Is you have a strong team in Australia playing in this group. So it's you got 2 of the top 5, and then another top 10 team in Australia. I mean, you got to figure Australia's top 10 or top 12 at least, because you figure that the top 12 teams are what FIFA EA Sports is picking for FIFA 16, and
right, exactly.
These 3 teams are all on that game. So you're gonna be playing as these at least in that little women's part that they're gonna add in. To kind of go a little in depth with USA, who are some of the forwards besides maybe Sydney and Abby and Alex that you're gonna look forward to and see what they bring forward to this game and maybe score some goals for the women?
Wait a minute, there are other forwards?
Well, technically Rapinoe. Technically Toby.
I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
No, I absolutely love Rapinoe. Are you kidding?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
She's M's woman crush. I
kind of hope there's a lot of talk of Kristen Press kind of starting on that left side and that 3 striker force. If Rapinoe doesn't start up on that left side, I really hope she kind of maybe is slotted in as like an attacking midfielder or something like that. Just because her creativity is just fantastic. I think between her and Lauren Holiday, those are the 2 best passers on this female team. Another one, though, as I just mentioned, is Kristen Press. I really want to see what she does. She's rated very highly for a young girl, and I'm hoping that maybe that she'll provide a little extra, since you figure you're going to have Abby and Sydney being completely marked like crazy by these teams because they're the well-known strikers. So maybe that'll open up something for Press to get some goals.
And how's Alex's leg?
She's training again. I don't know if she's going to start anytime soon. Probably won't make the first game, but she'll probably at least get an appearance in the second game and then maybe start the third game. We'll see what happens. I honestly, if she doesn't play until the knockout rounds and she's at least healthy, I'm okay with that. We need the depth for the length of the tournament, especially if they did what I said and they end up second. When I was looking at the tournament dates, it's 4 days from game 3 to the next knockout round if they end up second place in the group. And that's kind of a short turnaround compared to other turnarounds, especially if they win the group, which I think is 5 days. But yeah, I feel like if they can kind of rest her a little bit, that'll be fine. I'm curious to see, like I said, Lauren Holiday, former kind of winger. Now she's more of like a defensive midfielder in a way with Carly Lloyd. I'm curious to see how she does, because when she's not pushed back to defend too much, she seems to be like that silky smooth passer, like a Xavi for this female team, in the sense that she's able to kind of spring those runs for LaRue on the outside. So it's one of those things. If she can get forward, I think this will be a good thing for this team. Becky Sauerbrunn in the back is my favorite center back. She's just strong, and she will be counted on, kind of like how Rampone was counted on the past decade or so. And obviously, we all know who Hope Solo is. She scares me, but any other players that maybe I haven't mentioned that you want to bring up and talk about a little bit?
I think the young one, Morgan Bryan, I don't know if she'll get any time, but it's good to see that we have at least one person coming up from the young ranks of that Kristen.
Yeah. And I mentioned like Sydney Relu on the runs and all that.
She's 25 though. I mean, geez, who's going to come in? I mean, we're talking about the youngest girl is 22 and the second is 23 in June.
Wow.
So it's crazy.
There's one other defender I was just thinking about that especially if she's playing her A game, Ali Krieger on the right. I love her on attack because she's just a fantastic crosser. I think she still plays her club game in Germany, but if she's healthy, she'll do fine. I know that it hurt last World Cup against Japan because she injured herself like in the quarterfinal or the semifinal, one of the two, and missed out on the final, obviously. So if she's able to stay healthy for the duration of the tournament, that's going to be key for them on the outside. The more I look at this team, I feel like they're going to have to be very direct and up the middle. There seems to be even though they're fast everywhere. I just feel like with the way they have the team set up with Wambach and LaRue and all that in the front, you're going to need those to be kind of playing some hold-up play for Holiday to get up there, for Rapinoe to get up there, for Lloyd to get up there. It'll be one of those situations that I feel like they're going to be very central with those players and need to.
What formation do they often run? I mean,
lately they've been kind of doing like a weird 4-3-3. Where it's like it's not really like a 4-3-3 with wingers. It's like a 4-3-3 with 3 strikers.
Yeah,
like that's kind of what I'm saying. Very tight top 3. It's almost like their outside center mids are kind of like being pushed out to be like wingers of like almost like picture an umbrella in a way.
Yeah, no,
it's
that
like
makes sense.
it's kind of how it looks in a sense where it's like you have Wambach at the top, then LaRue and Press next to her, at the very top as kind of like second and third strikers, and then you have kind of like Holiday and Rapinoe kind of on the outsides of center mid, and then you have Carly Lloyd as the main center mid up the middle, and then the back 4, obviously. So that's why when I'm talking about Ali Krieger here, I really feel like if she's gonna be an X factor pushing forward, if they kind of keep that, if Jill Ellis keeps that formation in that 4-3-3, Allie's definitely going to be a very key factor going forward on the outside because they're going to be very compact in the middle. I think that's also one of the reasons why I'm pointing out that if Holiday is able to push forward and make some nice passes, it'll be a good game for her, because if she's getting pushed back to defend more in that formation, it'll probably hurt the game and hurt the team. Is there any other players before we close out that you want to mention, give her a shout out?
Nope. I think the only player that I'm going to really be focusing on, because her play is so good, is Megan Rapinoe.
Yeah,
she's the one that I want to watch the most. Also, obviously, Alex Morgan. I want to see her score a ton of goals.
Oh yeah, me too. One little side note about Megan Rapinoe too is I feel like she's almost. I hate this comparison, but she's almost Messi-esque when she's dribbling. In the sense that she's really good on the ball and flying around the field with it. I think that's going to be an X factor for the team in the sense that if she's able to kind of do that play, she will spring everybody else forward, and there'll be a lot of goals scored because she's setting up things and being very creative. And that's the best role for her, in my opinion, is if she's a creative force. So
yep.
She'll be a major key in this team's attack. So.
Well, right. I mean, Alex and Sydney and Abby can be great, but they need service.
Exactly. And if you don't have Rapinoe and Holiday giving them the ball, you don't have anything really.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
well, it's exciting. Yeah, I'm actually looking forward to a lot of these games.
I'm actually going to be hanging out with the local AO group on Monday to watch Monday's match just to see it. So I'm not a big AO person or anything, but I do like some of the people in the Cleveland area that are a part of it. So it'll be fun to watch it at a bar setting and getting a lot of people involved at least. So
yeah, well, I'm a member of AO Denver. I just, I'm not a big AO person either, but I am a member of AO Denver, and to me, it's cool that people are taking this as seriously as the men's, and I
appreciate
I don't care who it is. As long as we all get to watch it, it's cool. But yeah, I'll be watching. Well, Group D obviously the most, but mostly because of Sweden. My family's from Sweden, so it's kind of cool.
Okay. So Whitesides is a Swedish name.
No. Whitesides is an Irish name. But,
I thought so. Like, it's not Swedish. All right.
That's my dad's side is Whitesides, but my mom's side is all Swedish. So.
All right. Well, before we close out the show, who's in the final and who wins?
Oh God, you would do this to me.
I did do this to you.
Who's in the final? Well, obviously, I want USA to be in the final. I don't know that they will be, but my gut is telling me that it'll be France and Germany. But I think that it'll actually be Germany and the United States. If I have
at first I wrote down Germany, USA. But then I had to scratch it out, and I wrote USA, France. I did, like I said, when we talked about France, I really like Louise Nasiv. I think she's a good force, and they do have some other solid players with her. But she's her and Marta are very similar in the sense that they're the engines that drive the whole team. So if they both can get their teams far, I feel like, especially if that's a matchup, France versus Brazil, I will love that matchup. That'll be fantastic to watch how they play on the field and distribute the ball, basically. But I right now have USA France, USA winning it all, finally vanquishing the long casted shadow of 1999. And probably no jersey ripoffs like Brandy Chastain or anything like that. So
who cares? I'll be ripping mine off.
Yeah, I will probably rip off my tip. Like, yes. All right. Well, that wraps up our show for the Women's World Cup. Tyler, till we meet again.
All right. We'll see you soon.